Hi everybody, Bob Andersen back again talking about your favourite subject and mine, property development. Have you ever heard the saying, show me the numbers, or perhaps another one, the numbers don't lie? You know, that's quite true in property development. In fact, when you boil it all down, it's really all about the numbers. Whether a deal is worth doing or not worth doing will depend on what we call the numbers. So, what do I mean by the numbers? Well, quite simply, I'd probably liken it to a profit and loss statement. Perhaps you've seen a profit and loss statement for a business. And what it is, in its simplest form, you've got your income, however you derive that from selling things or sales or whatever. Your income, less all your expenditure, is going to give you what? Well, it's going to give you your profit, isn't it? And it's the same with property development. When you're doing a feasibility, your income, well, that's pretty simple. That's what you get when you sell your product. If you did a two-lot splitter, say one block of land cut into two, it's what you get when you sell the 2 blocks of land. Or you might do a 3 townhouse project. It's what you get when you sell the 3 townhouses. So that's your income. That's pretty easy. But where people get really messed up is in the costs. What are they? How much are they? And what I found in property development is where people go wrong, particularly people new to property development, where they go wrong is they get the numbers wrong. They're not sure what the items are, and they're not sure what the dollar values are. And I can spend quite a lot of time, in fact I do in my property development course, spend quite a lot of time teaching people how to do the right numbers. But just for today, what I'd just like to cover is where we might go to get the right numbers. So if we're talking about, let's keep it simple, let's say we're building a small townhouse project, perhaps 3 townhouses. So what we have to know on the income side of the equation, what are they worth? What are they worth? Well, if you're doing what I'd suggest you do and you're getting out into the marketplace and you've chosen a particular area, you're getting out there, we've talked about this before, getting to understand pricing, you'll know those numbers pretty well. You'll be going to open townhouses, you'll be talking to real estate agents, everything that sells in your area, when you see a sold sign go up, you'll be talking to the agent. So you will get a pretty good idea of what things are selling for. Any properties that are up for sale, you see for sale signs in your area of interest, you'll be contacting the agent. When you see the sold sign up, contact them again, see what it's sold for. So it's not that hard really to get a good handle on the sell prices. But what about the costs? You know, when it comes to costs, just like a profit and loss statement, if you like, for a little business, and that's all a development is, it's just a little standalone business. The cost basis, well, there's about probably 8 standard ones that I cover. Now what I mean by that, well obviously the land, now that's an obvious one. We're buying some land. We're going to buy a block of land, we're going to cut it in half, we're going to do a 2-lot subdivision, we're going to build some townhouses. And so once again, when we're going out into the marketplace, we're talking to agents, we're seeing sites that are getting sold, we'll get a pretty good handle on what sale prices are as well. And at the end of the day, when we're doing our first lot of numbers, well, we'll just put in the asking price. It might be an auction, so we need to get a bit of a feel for that, or it might be a listing where we know the price. And so that would go in, obviously the land, plus the legals and the stamp duty. That's where we get our costs from, just initially from the asking price. As far as working out stamp duty in the different states, there's so many finance websites out there that have little calculators on them for working that out. So that's pretty easy. So back to our hypothetical 3 townhouse project. So we know the sale price because we're in the marketplace. The land at the moment is what the asking price is. Construction prices. So when you first start out, you might know what a townhouse costs to build. And so once again, you need to be taught. The 2 primary sources are actually builders and quantity surveyors. You can talk to both of those, but I find builders are the best. Now when you're out there getting to understand your market, and you've heard me talk about this before, when you go to open houses, you'll be asking the agent, well, who was the builder? And therefore you can make contact with the builder, you've seen the townhouses, and you can talk about what they cost. What was the contract price to build these townhouses? Whenever you see a development going up and you see a builder's sign on it, you need to talk to that builder and get to know some of the builders that are building in your area, and that way you get to understand pricing as well. The same with quantity surveyors. But I prefer builders when it comes to construction prices. Now you're going to need some professional people in there, some help. You know, architects, town planners, some engineers a little bit later. And what you can do, if you go to an architect, architects pretty well understand the process. They understand the different professional people that are going to be needed. And as a first point of call, I'd be going to the architect. The architect can pretty well tell you which consultants you need and what is the going rate. So on a 3 townhouse project, he'd know what normal planning, you can ask the town planner too of course, but what a town planner would cost, what the different engineers would cost and so forth, but a good point of call. And once again, if you go into those open houses, you can ask the agent, well, who is the architect? There's plenty of ways of tracking down architects. So we've talked about land, we've talked about construction, we've talked about the different professional people, and of course there's council fees. Now the best place to find out what the council fees are is what? Pretty clever? Yeah, ask the council. You can go to council websites. Some councils have fantastic websites, but otherwise, look, contact the town planning section at the council and they can give you a list of what their different fees are in a normal development. Now, of course we've got finance, well that's another cost. Once again, it's really a matter of understanding the finance cost. There'll be an application fee, valuation fee, and whatever the interest rate is. Finance, well that's a different subject, you've heard me talk about that probably in the past, but it's whatever the going interest rate is at the time is what you load in. Now we've got marketing costs. Well, it's what the real estate agents or the project marketers are charging to sell the property. And that's not too hard to work out because you can just ask them, what are your fees? Now the other one's GST. Now this is what, don't forget the GST, because the federal government will have their hand out. Now we know that GST is generally 10%. So 10% of your costs are relative to GST, but not all costs. Government statutory charges, things like stamp duty, land tax, and even council fees don't have a GST component, but pretty well everything else does. But don't forget GST. And other than that, there's just some little miscellaneous bits and pieces. Let's say some legals on sale, perhaps setting up a body corporate or an owner's corporation. Just a few other little bits and pieces. So the good news is that when it comes to costs, there's always an expert out there that can help you. Whether we're talking about an architect to help you with the consultant fees, whether we're talking about a finance broker perhaps to help you with finance fees, the council to help you with their fees, there's always somebody there to help. So what you need to do is get familiar with these costs, how to get them, so that you get the right numbers. Very important, the numbers don't lie, the numbers are everything in property development. When it comes down, you've got to get it right.